There's the people who just want to have the cards in hand, feel them, look someone in the eye. If they're bluffing or lying about something, they want to be able to kind of try to pull it off with the person in the room. There's all these little social things that I think will never fully go away from our nature, and so that's the kind of thing that will always draw people into board games.
Modern game evolution definitely had a huge surge in the probably late 80s. I think right now we're in kind of a golden age of gaming.
Board games, in my opinion, are at a high time. In our game store here at the Game Reserve, we see older people to younger people. They can be from 7 up to 65.
Yeah, I feel like definitely board games are coming back.
I think which has been culturally happening outside of board games and things, you have the state of arrested development getting pushed further and further down the line for most adults now. And so just things that would have probably once been like, well, I'm past that phase, is no longer a thing. Because same with video games. Video games now aren't a phase, they're just a hobby.
The older ones, they miss that younger time when we were playing board games as kids. And, places like this they didn't think existed, game stores.
All these things, whether it's board games, even like cartoons or like goofy comedy stuff, like, anything that's kind of genre-y, that's all more viable now because more and more people are consuming it longer and longer. And now that people are old enough to have their own kids, then it's locking it in because for those kids, it's going to be utterly normal.
So the golden age of gaming, to me, my definition of it is it's also a golden age of geekery and nerdery because of a lot of different things. You've got the Big Bang Theory, which exposed people to things that they had never heard of before. You've got things like webisodes of Geek and Sundry with Critical Role, Felicia Day, Will Wheaton, the Sci-Fi Channel. So many of these things have become just sort of accepted part of our everyday's regular life that it's changed the way that people think, or people even don't think about it anymore. Used to be geek and nerd were kind of like separate substrata of society. And now who doesn't know how to use a computer? Back in the day, if you knew how to use a computer, you were considered odd or weird.
My feeling about the nerdism in the older days to nowadays is the acceptance level. I mean, people are changing slowly but surely, but they're realizing that you don't have to be a nerd to enjoy these games. Everybody here is socially accepted, whether you're an AK nerd from the old days to a jock. It doesn't matter here, you're all accepted.
Yeah, especially when you think about role-playing games. I always thought of like a dim-lit basement with nerds sitting around a table rolling the dice, and I never could imagine myself sitting there. I just thought how funny that would feel to me, but that's not at all what it is.
And they forget that people are what they used to call nerds. That they're not nerds. It's just, hey, I play D&D with this gentleman, or I play this board game with this guy. There just isn't that concept in the store is gone. There is no, I'm a nerd, I'm a jock, I'm a this. It's, we're all here to play a game.
So Dungeons and Dragons for me is hugely important. It's that pivotal game in my gaming history that caused me to realize that you're not restricted to a board. Your imagination can really take off.
I had a friend who ran it, and it's funny, I played it a bit, but I remember the sessions very well because he took full advantage of the anything can happen here.
My most popular sellers is Dungeons and Dragons, by far none. D&D, when edition 5.0 came out, it took a year for it to get popular, and then it exploded on the game scene. Every game store is doing it. We run it 4 days a week here in the store. We have multiple groups. We have other GMs that come in and run games right here in the store for their own groups. So they get out of those basements from the old days.
Board game sales are up, RPG sales are up, people are willing to buy books, they're looking at the value that you get from a game and the amount of hours of entertainment you can get from it.
Like we do board game night here every Thursday night at the Game Reserve, and more people come because they want to see what's out there, and they learn them and they say, oh my goodness, my family would love this game, and then they start purchasing them and bring them home. Before you know it, they come in and instead of playing the games, they ask for requests for the next game or an expansion. So yeah, board games have just skyrocketed, in my opinion, the last 3 years. It's only gotten stronger.
The most difficult thing I think right now for shops like this is competing against online sales.
The board game sales we have here are still pretty steady. The thing that's probably changing the most is Kickstarter.
Oh, Kickstarter. It's such a great tool for stores. There's a little disadvantage with it, but Kickstarter's got games out there people never heard of.
So there's like a mix of like, so if you're a person, like you know, you're the consumer, you're like, oh, you get something special, you usually get a really good value, which is great.
But in the beginning, it was hard for game store owners because you couldn't buy them except for the same cost as everybody else. So, you know, we could go to Amazon and order the same game, but to increase its price, you know, to help pay the light bill, so to speak, you just can't do it.
Kickstarter has been huge for new games. It's also been a detriment because by the time people get new games on Kickstarter, they don't filter out to your local game store.
When Kickstarter finally opened up to retail stores, they finally opened up their doors for us to order their products. It made the biggest difference in the world because we know people are going there looking for it because they might not have the money or they can't do the Kickstarter at that particular time. But knowing that they can go to a game store and get it down the road, it's a win-win for them and it's a win-win for us now. I like the way they've opened it up to the game store community, and it's just made games so accessible and people can see the new stuff coming out and watch the videos before it's released. I think Kickstarter was a wonderful tool for everybody in the long run.
It does spread the word of gaming. So typically what will happen is someone will play a game, they'll get a game, wherever they get it, online, it doesn't really matter. And that gets them into gaming, and once you're into something like that, you just get hooked because entertainment dollar-wise and time-wise, I think it's a value that just can't be beat.
There's no better feeling in the world. To see the people learning and the thought process going through different games from A to B to C, the way they work together sometimes as a team on some games, sometimes they work against each other, and the strategy behind it is just awesome to watch somebody play a game.